Guys, welcome back to the podcast. You're already joining us live either on YouTube, First and 10 Academy on YouTube, or on our Facebook group. I'm joined today by Raj Kotecha. Raj is a speaker, producer, CEO of Creative Content Agency. He's founder of My Friends, Your Friends. You're co-founder of VaynerWorld. You've launched 2 of Gary Vee's books. You've collaborated with the Wu-Tang Clan, and he's here today to speak to us about how we should be approaching coronavirus and how we should be talking about coronavirus in our business, as well as loads of amazing other things, and how we can engage with our community and our tribe. So welcome, Raj. Great to have you here, mate.
What's going on, man? How you doing?
Yeah, good. Good to see you again. How's your week been?
It's been beautiful, man. Just like back behind the camera again, back in front of the camera again, launched a podcast, talking to a lot of people, just taking this quarantine time to reconnect and also upskill. I had a long period of time where I had people inside my organization that knew how to use my cameras and my equipment and new processes better than I did. And so it's just been reacclimatizing and getting my own skill level up. I think I was behind the boardroom table for too long and not in front of the camera enough. So, getting back to the old.
So you using this time really just to dig into developing new skills, picking up some of the skills you used to have and getting back into your values a bit.
Yeah, man. Just, shaking up, just blowing off some of that dust, really.
Amazing.
I started off as a one-man band and as a practitioner, and then transitioned into more consulting and more advice. And so it's nice to go kind of back to the essence again. And it's definitely going to put me in a better position to really know what I'm talking about even more on the practical side of for the agency and things like that. So
100%. So going back to the essence. So who is Raj? I mean, I've listed off some amazing things that you've done, and you've been around a while in the game. Let's be honest. You've certainly had an exciting couple of decades, really, mate. So who is Raj? What are you about?
So at my essence, I'm a shopkeeper's son. I like serving. I like business. From a very young age, I enjoy like hand-to-hand selling. So I grew up in my father's shop in the 80s and 90s, selling sweets, gift cards, chocolates, bread, milk, eggs, usual kind of like Indian convenience store stuff. My parents are from East Africa. My grandparents are from India. So we're known as East African Indians. We're Gujaratis. So we're natural tradespeople. 1998, went to university in Manchester Metropolitan. It was the first year that they launched school fees. The first time that they had, the first year that they ever launched university fees. So I went to university, realized that there was £1,000 debt hanging over my head. Thought, how am I going to pay this off? And I remember holding a flyer in September 1998. The flyer had a party that was coming up. I went outside to meet the guy that was organizing the party. I said, if you gave me a few tickets and I sold them, could I come to the party for free? That was the beginning of my love with promoting parties and DJing. That's when I started. I had a bit of a head start because in my dad's shop, all I did was listen to music whilst I was sweeping the floors and stacking the shelves. Did a degree in business and IT with management. Wrote my first thesis in 2001 on mobile commerce and how mobiles and apps and banking and games would eventually take over the world. Got laughed at by every single person in my school because they were like, people aren't going to use the mobile phones. Like, people weren't even using SMS at the time, to give you some context. So they were like, people aren't going to use their mobile phones for, surfing the web. But anyway, that didn't work out really in their favor. But what did work out in my favor is April 2000, there was a recession. The NASDAQ, the dot-com bubble burst. So I came out into the working population for a year or so, working in the design and fragrance industry. Really, what heart was still very much in tech. Did a master's in technology management with a focus on acquisition and strategy. Market was still down, went to Canada, ended up in the ringtones game, launched the first independent ringtones portal in Toronto in 2003, 2004. Made friends with more of the hip hop community and the rap community that I knew well. People like Cardinal Official, Director X, who makes a lot of Drake's videos, music videos now. Became friends with Russell Peters, came back to London in 2005, started working in the movie industry, helping them with their mobile clips, pre-iPhone, started doing parties for Russell Peters. So there's 2 lives going on simultaneously here. There's the DJ and the hustler and the guy who's into entertainment. And then there's the guy who's working in technology. After that, 2007, worked for a publisher in Los Angeles, employee number 6. 2008, The company sold for tens of millions of dollars. We were at 33 employees. I didn't know, but I'd actually been given share options as part of my onboarding. I got a small payout from that. We sold to The Guardian. It was a big acquisition because they were trying to get into the US. 2008, I really doubled down on this agency model, the creative content agency. Tried to tell everybody and their grandma that content was going to be the future and that social media was going to be the future. There was still remnants of MySpace around. People thought that the acquisition of Google, like when Google purchased YouTube, that was a joke. It was, these are the times that we're talking about. But I committed. I managed to connect with the e-commerce community, and the e-commerce community was really supportive of my business because they needed lots of content to help them sell their golf clubs and their packaging and everything they sold online. Business went really well for several years, grew, ended up moving more towards professional services. Jump forward to 2005, DJing still going incredibly well. Consulting side still going incredibly well. Cameras get better. Distribution of content gets cheaper and cheaper as social networks get on the rise. Came to Dubai in 2015. Adopted really well by the business community over here. Spent the first 2 years half pregnant in Dubai. So like I was here, but in any 1 year, I could be in 14, 15 other countries. 2017, really committed to the market here. Launched My Friends, Your Friends. Started off with 15 people that I thought would be interesting people that should meet, and told them to invite along their friends. 11 events later, we're now at 3,500 people. Did our 10th event at Burj Khalifa. And yeah, I guess my official title is CEO of the Creative Content Agency. A bunch of cool projects, as you mentioned, projects with the Wu-Tang Clan and Gary Vaynerchuk. Really, that's it, man. It's been rapid fire, like no bad years, no bad months, no bad weeks, just winning, hustling, going for it. Got some really won the DNA lottery, won the mindset lottery very early. Like always thought from the beginning that I'm the greatest thing to ever walk the earth, and that has acted as a ozone layer for all the stuff that can bring you down. Never really since high school, never been really affected by bullying, detractors, people telling me no. I'm always trying to think. I always feel like if you think 36 to 48 months ahead, you're going to really defend yourself against like nowism and people critiquing what you're doing now. And yeah, that's it, man. Just a lucky dude, a lucky, fortunate guy, and a privileged one, because people like yourself choose to put me on your platform and take my 2 cents for what it's worth. So I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful for what you're doing right now, and I know it's going to make a positive change to people's lives. So well done on F10X Academy. I really, I mess with you guys in the heaviest way, man. Like I love F10, and I really rock with you guys hard, man. So this is one of the last few interviews I'm going to do for a while, but I feel it's a privilege to be on your platform. So thank you so much.
It's a privilege to have you on, buddy. Really, really appreciate you coming on, spending your time with us this evening, just to help provide insights to the community we've got here. I like you say, I think what we're doing is going to help a lot of people. And that's the motivation here. And I think Dubai is going through a massive change, as is the world, right? And I think people in Dubai are feeling it because we're so globally connected here. Maybe even more than a lot of cities around the world.
Yeah.
But coming from someone who's experienced lots of change, how many recessions have you been through now?
2000 Nasdaq.com burst definitely affected me because it made my degree and my academic career less worthwhile in the short term. 2008, I was in publishing. Luckily, that business got sold in July 2008, and the recession really kicked in around October 2008. So we were about 3-4 months ahead of it. So it's a good time to have some liquidity. It taught me that cash is a real savior when the market goes down. And then this would be the third one. Yeah. This could be the big one though, because the other two look like a trip to like Madame Tussauds or Disneyland compared to what the market's going through right now. But I can't say that. Yeah, I can't say that I didn't pick up any antibodies in that time. Like I've definitely probably got more resilience for the world that we're going through at the moment. I really feel for the people that are economically affected. And of course, I really feel for the people that are biologically affected. I'm already aware of people that are losing parents. I already have loved ones that are dying and having to die alone in hospital beds because nobody can visit them, because that's just the nature of the hospital and the healthcare system at the moment. And shout out to all the healthcare workers that are holding it down for us, man.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's an incredibly difficult time, for sure. I think one of the things that strikes me about you and a lot of our conversations in the past, and we've had a few chats about recessions, you've always come across as someone who's you're real with it, but you're very optimistic, and you kind of see you approach it in quite a poised way, where you see what's going on in real life, but there's an opportunity within that, right? And you managed to pivot quite quickly in the past through these difficult transitions, right? So tell me a little bit about your mindset going into this as a global crisis, going into this as a business owner. I'd love to hear about that.
The advice I would give on mindset is that the first thing that you can do to calm any anxieties and short-termism is to consider the window that you're analyzing something. If you're analyzing something over a 24-month window, especially the next 24 months, there's going to be a lot of turmoil. There's going to be a lot of adjustments happening in the marketplace, both at a policy level, a macroeconomic level, a human behavior and consumer behavior level. We're going to see the rule book get scrapped and rewritten every 2 to 5 weeks, I'm sure. But when you look at things in a 5-year window, when you look at the future of 5G, nanotechnology, automation, healthcare, and then also the fact that I feel like a lot of governments, especially the UK government, isn't going to want to get caught with its pants down again in terms of its preparation for a pandemic. The National Health Service that's supposed to serve the health of the nation. If you say it backwards, National Health Service is to service the health of the nation, to ensure that the health is well serviced, did not budget for this much throughput and for this much pandemia, this much of a pandemic. And so I don't think that they're going to want to get caught with their pants down again. I think that the system that they're going to build is going to be more resilient, and is not going to be about cost cutting and getting rid of people and not appreciating the people that glue the society together from a healthcare perspective, and doing more for them. And so are we going to go through some short-term pain? Yes. It's horrible that stapled to that is a biological element where we will lose loved ones. That's awful. Maybe me too. I've got asthma. You never know how it could go down. But then on the flip side, over a 5-year window, I think we're going to be in a much healthier position. But more than technology and more than economic and fiscal policy, I hope that from a compassion point of view, that we end up in a much better place as human beings. There's so much to be said for capitalism, but maybe less so in terms of compassionatalism. I don't know. I'm just making that word up, but like compassionalism, like it's really, I really feel like that. I don't know what the word is, and hopefully somebody takes my really ghetto way of trying to say that word and turns it into a real word. Maybe if you write it down, you'll know how to move the syllables around. But like, yeah, I think that would be nice if we came out the other side a little bit more compassionate and a little bit more appreciative, because one of my superpowers, and you can speak to anybody, including, my mentors, my aforementioned mentors, there's two things. There's the window that you analyze stuff, and then there's just your capability to process gratitude in the short term. I'm really grateful, dude. Like I grew up in Manchester, 7 people in a house. We lived in a 2-bedroom flat above a shop, went a lot of Christmases without presents, missed out on a lot of school trips, got accepted into acting school at 13, 14, 15, couldn't afford the summer fees, missed out on a lot. So to be here right now in an apartment where I walk outside, and if the Burj Khalifa fell, it would fall on me. I'm that close. And it's like, it's just real, man. Like I feel like I won a really long time ago.
It really stood out to me how you mentioned perspective and kind of stepping back and looking at it long term. A lot of people who are feeling overwhelmed and stressed by this, it's because they're looking too short term, I think, in a lot of ways. And also what you said about this shift to compassion. You said compassionalism. Was it compassionalism? I like that new word.
Compassionalism. Yeah, that's it. We made it. That's the word.
That's in this episode, compassionalism, I think. So, so I mean, this is an interesting thing, because I was speaking to someone about this yesterday in an interview on a podcast, and kids are now at home and they're stuck with their families. They can't leave, especially teenagers. It was a conversation about parenting teenagers, right? And people have wanted a change within the educational system from academics to more soft skills, a higher focus on emotional intelligence. And now it's literally been given to them. Now's your chance to spend time with your family and develop those kind of soft skills. And it's almost like this shift is happening for a lot of people in that way. So a huge opportunity to develop, that compassion is going on through this, right? And there's always that kind of understanding there's this two opposing energies or forces going on all the time. For every positive, there's a negative, and whatever size that negative is, the positive is equal, and that kind of goes on throughout the world. I feel. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree with what you said there about the two forces. Let me speak on the two forces the way that I see them. The year is 2020 right now, and it's definitely going to be one of the most remarkable, memorable years of our generation. The behaviors that we're required to enable within ourselves right now, however, are not only a 2020 outlook, but in many ways to survive this time, you need to have both a 2010 and a 2030 mentality at the same time. So let me explain. When you're 10 years younger, you might be, you mentioned you're 30. At 20 years old, I don't know your history, but I'm sure there's a lot of 20-year-olds that are living at home, right? They're with their family, they're with their parents, maybe they go home between university semesters, and the ability to get along with those people around you and stay indoors because you've not got much money, and so your truth is that you stay indoors. That's the reality for a lot of people right now. On the flip side, in 2030, is there going to be a lot more people working remotely? Is there going to be a lot more people working from home? Is there going to be a lot more people adopting e-commerce? Is there a lot more people going to be adopting telemedicine? Yes. So in many ways, the coronavirus has come along and taken a huge part of our life and pushed it back 10, 20 years. And it's taken another part of our life and our behavior and aggressively moved it forward, accelerated it 10 years. And so we find ourselves in a situation where we need to both have these really important legacy skills that our parents and grandparents dealt with when they didn't have much money and they stayed at home, whether it be because there just wasn't that much stuff going on outside or they didn't have much money. Then you've got to live in a 2020 world because every day the decisions you make impact how this all plays out for you. And then you've got to live in a 2030 world where if you are not, our generation is so accustomed to being on the cutting edge when it comes to e-commerce and Deliveroo and telemedicine and things of that nature. But for many people, that's not the case. For 53-year-old Beatrice, who works in accounts, who gets a tremendous amount of anxiety at the idea of having to go home and log into the work system, this is really difficult for her. And so this is a period of time of adjustment. And I think these are the two factors that are playing a big role right now.
Yeah. Yeah, 100% agree with you there. So, running a business, taking a team through this, obviously there's a lot going on. It's not easy for a lot of people. As a business leader, as someone managing a team, how should you be seen and heard right now? And I think that's one of the biggest topics really that you want to get into. And I think, I'd love to get straight into that and hear what your thoughts are.
The way you should be seen and heard is basically you need to decide what frequency it is right to be seen and heard. So I've got a guy at the moment who is stuck in London. I'm doing my best to reach out at the very least by text once a week, if not jumping on a phone call and just checking in and seeing where they're at headspace wise. There's a very real chance that person may take this downtime because they're young and realize that they want to go into a different direction and adopt other skills. That's very common. It's what I did when I was 25, 26, 27. I was bouncing around a lot. I've also got other people that are new to the business that are closer to my age and a little bit more grandfathered in because we've done bits of business before. So I would say that transparency is really, really important. It's really important to let your team know where your head's at. It's really important to find out if your team needs anything during this time. One of my team has had to take on a little bit more technical work than they normally would do. And so there's definitely been an opportunity to share skills with that person and level them up. But more than anything, I think it's really important to communicate to your team the truth behind their ecosystem. Like, where do they fit in to the value chain? Like, not the value chain in your business, but the value chain in a much more broader sense, as in you've got your clients above you, they pay you, you take that money, you pay your staff, they take that money, buy other things, do courses, pay their rent, whatever it may be. And from our perspective on the agency side, we've seen a aggressive downward curve on revenues, not because we're a bad agency, we're the best, but the fact is that the clients that we represent are not able to transact. So one of them is a lawyer. You're not able to go to court right now. So that person's had to dial down what they're doing. Another place is a 5-star luxury hospitality and F&B outlet. They're not able to sell food or do events. So they've shut their doors. Now, on the flip side, that's when it comes to communicating to your staff. When it comes to communicating with your ecosystem and your stakeholders, one thing that I've really done and I've made a big point to do is I've told the brands that I work with, and the final choice is theirs, don't turn the lights off. Don't be a dummy and turn the lights off. Like, at least keep the lights on. The store may be closed and all the stock inside it might be on sale. But if you want to keep your dignity during this time, make sure that your shop front window is still looking good. Go out there, clean the glass, change the merchandise on a regular basis, make people know what you're doing. Like, make sure people know what you're doing. So what do I mean by that? I'm talking about social media. I'm talking about content. I'm talking about picking up the phone and checking in on your clients. Still keeping an eye on the things that continue to move in your industry, whether you like it or not. I'm in the content game. It's important that I know about any changes happening with microphones, radio frequencies, cameras, lenses, things of that nature. Like, don't turn the lights off. And I'll give you a very real example. Before the lockdown happened, I was walking behind the house here at the river in Business Bay, and I probably walked the whole of downtown Boulevard here in Dubai, the main boulevard for those who are listening from outside Dubai, and then moved over one neighborhood towards where the water is, which is Business Bay. And as I walked past there, I saw I must have walked past 80 restaurants during that walk, and they were all closed. One had the faintest of lights on from a distance. So I was like, why would they leave their lights on? Like, and I went over there and I saw that the lights were on. And so I pushed the door and I opened the door. And when I opened the door, I could see the oven, the baker's oven was booming away. Like, there was fire through the gaps in the metal. And out comes this lady. And I'm like, are you working right now? And she was like, yeah. And I said, is your oven making fresh bread? And she said, yeah. I said, make me one then. Like, make me some bread with like cheese and za'atar. And she goes, okay. So she goes, it'll take 15, 20 minutes. And I was like, you know what? This is cool. Like, fine, take the 15, 20 minutes. I sat there, delivery drivers came in and out, and I paid 45 dirhams for those listening outside the UAE. That's about 10 pounds. And I paid 45 dirhams for some fresh bread, a coffee, and some sparkling water, some Perrier. And then I walked back out. And the only thing that this place did different was leave their lights on. And it caught my eye, and I went over, and I think that's an amazing analogy for what businesses should be doing right now.
I love that.
You got to shut down, but keep the lights on. And the lights don't really cost much.
And I guess it all stems down to, we had JP on recently, and JP was talking about the psychology of sales in the last interview. And what he was talking about is very similar, I think, to what you're saying, which is basically keep that relationship going, right? Yes, the transaction has stopped. You're not exchanging, you're not trading right now in the same way you were, but you've got to keep that relationship going, and be seen and heard, with your customers, with your members, right?
Yeah, for real. I mean, my first response to this from a business point of view and from a marketing point of view, obviously we're a content agency, so we're going to make more content. I'm an enthusiast behind content, so I'm going to personally make more content. But like, the first thing I did was launch a podcast called Social Distance Learning, because I was like, social distancing is the norm. Distance learning is something you can be getting on with. That's the name of the podcast. Been ringing people up, checking in with them, putting that out as audio content, taking a bit of time to give the same positions, the same advice that I give to my clients, giving it away for free on YouTube. And the Raj Kotecha brand, personal brand machine, is running at a faster RPM than ever. Like, it's because, and you've seen how many brands I've been able to launch just off my name. Like, you've got My Friends, Your Friends, you've got Raj Kotecha, you got Crowd9. Like, when you and I first met, I was in a Shavas campaign, right?
Yeah.
Like, when I was in the campaign for that brand, I was doing nothing for my brand, bro. I wasn't doing interviews. I wasn't out here doing anything. The only time you'd ever see me was at My Friends, Your Friends. Otherwise, I wouldn't even be out of the house. I'd be working. So if you imagine, when I'm putting nothing on my brand, I can go out and get a campaign for an international like liquor company, like liquor brand, and get covered in GQ or whatever magazine, Esquire magazine. So now when I turn it up because the market's down, I have to at least do what I was doing this time last year, right? I have to. So as the market goes down, I've got to fill that gap and fill that chasm with more heat, more creativity, more good advice, jumping on interviews, sharing with the community, checking in with, you know, the people that have really supported and people that maybe don't even know me that well or don't know my business that well, and just reaching out and being like, normally I'm really busy, but now's a really good time to let you know what we do. If you need any advice, it's yours. Take it.
Totally. Would you say, I mean, based on what you've said, this is how I kind of feel, that you are more connected to people since the lockdown and making a greater effort to connect to people, and maybe even finding it easier now than you were before?
I would say easier, but not a change in effort. It's easier because I've been quarantined for the last 4 weeks. So even as a response to nullify my own boredom, I might reach out to more and more people. But I wouldn't say that I'm more connected. No. I mean, if you see me at my friends, your friends, the one that we did at Burj Khalifa, I probably hugged 250 people and took
Really?
60 selfies. Like my connection game is real. And you've got to remember, like,
You guys got closed down, I think. So I think you got closed down, didn't you? You weren't expecting so many to rock up.
The truth is that the valet was unable to take any more cars, which was a dumb move by them. Sorry?
You need a bigger building next time.
Yeah, we need a bigger building than the rooftop of the Armani and the Burj Khalifa for sure. But you got to remember, like, when it comes to like my connections or the way I connect with people, like I said, I started off as a shopkeeper's son. So I sit behind the counter and John comes in and he needs 20 silk cut. And then Patricia walks in and I know what bread she wants. And then Lewis walks in and he wants to get some football gaming cards because he's collecting the stickers. Like, I like that high transaction, high frequency. Hi, how are you? Hi, how are you? That's in my nature. Then I was a promoter. Like in Manchester, I was literally a flyer boy. And I'm 5'6". At the time, I was really skinny, had acne and greasy hair with the side parting because it was like the 90s. And in the middle of the rain and the snow outside the Students' Union, I'll walk up to 15 girls, all which are way outside my league, looks wise, and be like, hey, would you like to come to my party this Sunday? Like, I live for that connection. I'll fight. I'll put myself in a vulnerable position personally to make that connection with people. This was in the analog era when people weren't even sending SMSs. So if we're going back to that, but then you give me a smartphone in my hand, the connection's going to go through the roof.
I guess what I mean by the connections being easier is that I feel all the cards are on the table now. People are having to completely pivot and change what they're doing because whatever was working before has just stopped. So collaborations and partnerships, people are making them daily, and I just feel there's so much opportunity now with collaborations that they weren't necessarily there before because people were so preoccupied, right?
I wouldn't agree with whatever was working before has stopped. I think it's dangerous to do, like, I feel like I've been saying recently that if you go by a rule of thumb, you'll lose your thumb. Like there's a lot of stuff that works. Like the reality is, prior to this pandemic, I would always make time to respond to you, right, on WhatsApp. And during this pandemic, here we are doing a video together. And after this pandemic, God willing, every time we reach out to each other, we're going to be there for each other. It might not be immediate. You might be busy. You might be in the thick of something. If you can't message me back for a week or two, that's cool. Vice versa, the same. That what's surviving this time, bro, is the most resilient, brilliant things that make us human beings. The need to connect, the need both ways, both to be reached out to and to reach out to others, and the need to create things and present things. Why am I doing a podcast? Why am I updating my website? Because I'm trying to refurbish and re-merchandise the things that will empower my customers to talk about me. And those things have got old. My websites right now look pretty dusty because they've not been updated in a long time. All of my case studies, all of the clients I've worked with, Spencer Lodge, Nimi Mehta, the Capital Club, none of that is on my website. So my priorities are getting that right, getting those fundamentals right, so that other people, when they see that content, feel empowered to talk about me. Because before the pandemic, word of mouth was still the hottest thing in the world. Now word of mouth is the hottest thing in the world. And after the pandemic, word of mouth will continue to be the hottest thing in the world. You've frozen up there, bro. I don't know if you can hear me. It's frozen. All right, Facebook crew, if you can still see me, what's going on? It's Raj Kotecha. Follow me at Raj Kotecha, RAJKOTCH on Instagram. Unfortunately, we lost Seb, so I'm here to play songs, do whatever you want to do, talk. I can't see anybody's instant messages. Hopefully, Seb can hear me and he can restart the stream. Come on, Seb. Anybody still watching on Facebook? Feel free to add me. Hopefully, the guys have tagged me. Seb, we miss you. Come back soon. We can't see you right now. If you want to restart the stream, we can do that.
How's that?
We are back.
Look at that, boom. Just a slight interruption.
Yeah, I mean, I apologize. Like, I don't know what happened there. I was just talking away, then you froze, and I carried on talking.
Oh, man.
If you want me to play some records, let me know.
All right, cool. But it's stopped freezing now, which is cool. I think we're back on.
Yeah, yeah. Your side just froze, and I was like, your face isn't moving. Either I've really put this guy into a complete trance, or StreamYard's really done this guy greasy right now.
I'm just blown away by what you just said. You know, sometimes I just freeze up like that, right?
Man, I'll take it. I'll take it.
So one of the things we spoke about before was this survival versus growth mentality, right?
Yeah.
Could you tell me a little bit about that?
I think over the last 10, 12 years, it's been very easy to fall into a habit of growth and being conditioned into growth. We've seen tech companies and growth hackers build their businesses up at rates that we've never seen prior. Now, it's been enabled by technology and enabled by communications and smartphones and policies and things that help. But we've been really in growth mode. What you might, and growth, obviously, much like any forward inertia and forward momentum, requires fuel. It requires time. It can require money. But I think what a lot of companies need to do right now is look at their cash position and be like, if we want to play a 5-year window game here, what do we need to do over the next 6 months? And if in the next 6 months you don't double or triple your business, if in the next 6 months a client that you've been working on closing for the last 6 months, you don't close them, that's fine. Like in the last 18 months before my business, the agency side of the business hit a wall, we'd grown 5 times revenue in the last 18 months. Now we're probably down 80%. So we're kind of back to the first quarter of our trading again. So what are my priorities? If I deploy the same strategy that I did during the good times, my fair weather strategy, into a bad weather season, which is now, that money's not going to ROI for me the same way. So 18 months ago, when the business was growing, I might put $5 into the business and it'll kick back out 10. But if I put $5 into the business now, it might kick back out 1. Make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
So my whole thing is, okay, what do we need to do? How, like, what from an OPEX point of view, what are my operational expenses? It's going to be basic salary, maybe reduced salary, no additional investment in equipment because we can't go on location and shoot and things of that nature. And maybe if we can just continue to keep our base costs in order, use it as an opportunity to upskill, because the market will swing back up. A lot of businesses will have been washed away. That means that we're going to come back into a very different supply demand dynamic. There's going to be a lot more demand and very few people able to supply. And so we're then going to have a cash upswing. If anything, it could actually end up choking us because there'll be more demand than we can handle. But for now, it's not about growth because the ROI on $1 is not the same as what it was in fair weather times, which was as recent as 3 months ago.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's, you know, a lot of what you're saying, I totally agree with. If you can sustain this throughout the next, 4 to 6 months, and you can keep your overheads low, keep that mindset of you're surviving through this no matter what. On the other side of this, if you've been seen and heard throughout, you're in a much better position to kind of relaunch, right?
Yeah.
What do you think is kind of going to kind of be the outcome for a lot of businesses here in Dubai? Do you see this this being something which is going to leave Dubai with a lot less businesses opening and running, or how do you kind of see it playing out?
I think one thing that makes it really hard to answer that question from my perspective is I've not really had the chance to check in with as many business people as I probably do when I'm outside every day. So do I know of any businesses that are closing? As of now, I've not heard of a single business that has chosen to close its doors. I think that the UAE is a great market. I think that we're already seeing things from a policy point of view that are going to empower entrepreneurs to stick out this period of time here in the UAE. And namely the fact that visas will continue to be applicable all the way through 2020 is going to give people a lot of relief, because to the best of my knowledge, if your visas run out in July, you've basically got like an additional 5 months there where you don't need to cash flow that additional investment. So do I see businesses leaving? I guess we're just going to have to see. I don't have a solid answer for that. I probably see more salaried employees feeling the pressure than I see businesses.
Yeah.
Because with a salaried employee, it's much more of a linear binary relationship with income versus outgoings, right? It's like, this is my salary, this is how much I pay rent, this is how much I pay for my kids to go to school, these are my fuel costs, my insurance costs, this is how much money my partner needs. Basically, that's that. It's a lot more linear. Whereas I think as an entrepreneur, you're like, in any market, I would say, you know that you're going to have to play the rough with the smooth, and you're going to get rough times. I actually feel like, looking at the charts of infections versus deaths and a number of other statistics from that point of view, that the UAE is faring pretty well. The UAE's done pretty good. I mean, we're not in triple digits yet on deaths, and God willing, we don't end up there. I would say that, the weather's good. People generally here lead positive lives. It's a very obedient society here, which means that we're not seeing any of the things that we're seeing in America, with people going out and protesting so that they can carry on living their normal lives. The connective tissue mentality between the economy and biology doesn't seem to be as strong, in the US and the UK as it is here. We kind of understand that we have to stay at home for the well-being of society. And if there's one thing you want in Dubai, it's for society to get back to an enjoyable place sooner rather than later. Because living when the times are good in Dubai, it's one of the best places to be, period.
Yeah, I've often thought that, definitely. You've spoken about healing as well with me before, and how that was, you spoke about survival and growth. What about healing?
What about it?
Well, you mentioned that was something you wanted to talk about in terms of how businesses approach this and their mindset around it. And, are there some tips in terms of that, how a business should kind of heal from this?
I'm sorry. Yeah. Sorry. So when I talked about surviving through this period and healing, okay, I understand. I apologize. Yeah. So what I mean is that when you're running at 100 miles an hour, one of the ironic downsides of an up market is that you're running so fast that it's like you're running through a forest, right? And you're doing really, really well. But occasionally, though you don't realize it, the odd poison ivy will scratch your arm, or the odd branch will cut you, or the odd snake will come up and bite your ankle. But because you're running forward, you're not realizing that all these things have happened to you. So you might have not had the chance to look at your bookkeeping protocols. You might have not had a chance to go through your cloud storage and get all your files in order. You might have not had a chance to upskill, and you wonder, hang on a second, why are people talking about these other companies around me? What do they possess that I don't possess? Oh, they're doing what I do plus AI. Oh, they're doing what I do plus robotics. Oh, they're doing what I do, but with the sustainability angle. But because you're going forward so quick and sustainability rose its head since you started sprinting, you don't stop to learn about it. And so what you're able to do is to say, okay, look, I've been meaning for the longest time to get all the health insurance policies adjusted and improve them. I've been meaning for the longest time to get a true cash flow projection in place, or look at my last 6 months, month-on-month profitability, or compare my year-on-year growth. Well, now you've got time, you can do it. And let me not sound like a corporate schmo, because I know a lot of the people, when you put this podcast out, I'm going to send it to a lot of my hustlers and artists as well. I'm talking to the DJs. The DJs have now got time to get those 200,000 songs that you've got in your Soretto box in order and file them and make sure that your sets are ready for the future. The break dancers that have been dancing on an injury, but they continue to dance on an injury because they're like, I'm going to keep dancing until Ramadan and then I'll heal up then because the market's still up and the clubs are still popping, have now got 4 additional weeks where they can rest their cartilages or their elbows or their shoulders or their necks and get better. Healing is both in a literal sense and in as an analogy for things, for little scabs and cuts and bruises that the business picks up, that it's scared to stop its momentum to address those things. Now is a phenomenal time to address those things.
Amazing. I love that. I love the metaphor as well of running through the jungle, getting bitten, not realizing what you're going through. And then, I think a lot of entrepreneurs are kind of just addicted to growth, right? They're just in this growth mindset all the time. And a fundamental part of that, just like when you're training the body with anything, is giving it time to heal. So it's almost like a natural pause for your business. So you can focus on some of the other stuff. The
coronavirus is in many ways is the ultimate metaphor for what business is going through. Like, think about it. When you're going 100 miles an hour, most people, the first couple of days of Ramadan, whether you celebrate or not, if you're part of this culture here in the UAE, Ramadan is a chance to slow down, a chance to reflect, a chance to work shorter days, a chance to spend time with your family. And a lot of people like us, a lot of the hustlers, the first 2-3 days of Ramadan, much like the first 2-3 days of the Christmas vacation, is just getting a flu. It's just everything catching up with you. It's coughing up all that stuff. It's sneezing up all that stuff. It's needing 2 or 3 days in bed to sweat it out. That's what I'm talking about. Take the opportunity right now to let all of those things that have been slowly chipping away at you, damage them. Take the opportunity to turn around and address them.
Yeah, brilliant advice. You've got some really good questions, actually, mate. Do you mind if I run through a couple of those?
Yeah, please. How many people are watching? I have no idea.
We've got a bunch of people on YouTube and a bunch on the Facebook group as well. I don't know if you can see at the top.
Shout out to everybody on YouTube, Facebook, all of the. Let me hit this live comments. Oh wow!
Yeah, we've got
this
a bunch
is crazy.
Of
This is amazing. Shout out to everybody who's engaging. Much love to all you guys. I just flicked over and saw the comments now. This is awesome. Big up, everybody.
So we've got let me pick a couple if that's all right. We got one here from Sabrina. What's the best tip to adapt currently, Raj? Best tip.
Try everything. Literally, just take everything that you think of that you've neglected, that you would like to incorporate in your business, whether you want to become more mindful, you want to become more compassionate, you want to become better at doing the numbers, you're really good at framing but really bad at lighting, or you're not particularly good at negotiation, you want to learn. Do it now. Go over to YouTube, check out some of the best people in the game, go over to Audible, get yourself a free subscription, start downloading audiobooks, and also don't forget about intra-skill transfer. Think about all the people that you work with in your own organization that are so much closer to your job that if you had time, you would like to drill some of their knowledge out of them. And they, in fact, would like to give it to you. But because they're so busy in their chair doing their job, and you're so busy in your chair doing your job, you never really get a chance outside a coffee break or a Christmas party to really talk and share knowledge in a meaningful way. So the best way to adapt right now is start off with starters, just little bite-sized tasters of everything that you thought was good for you. If it works and it's easy, double down again, and you'll start adapting really quickly, because what you end up with is much more resilience, much more adaptability. And those skills, don't forget, I call it a one-way street. You can't unlearn some of these things. If you need to adapt, that's going to benefit you whether you can apply the adaptation or not. It's still going to benefit you in this job, in this career, in this decade. Once you've got it in your head, you're ready.
Brilliant. Great advice, mate. Really good advice. Good question here, guys. Just a quick one. When you're commenting this, there's a link in the description from StreamYard saying allow StreamYard to access your Facebook, and it lets me see your names just so I can shout out to you and talk to you direct on here. So Facebook user here has said, what's a top what's a top skill you knew earlier in your business career? What's a skill that sort of benefited you earlier in your business career and it's benefiting you now?
I've never answered this question before. If you peel back all of the layers of the onion and you get really, really, really to the middle of it, this is the one skill that I had, and I'll tell you how I learned it, that has honestly made me who I am today. And if you're a capitalist or you're about your money, has made me a crap ton of money. Manners. I kid you not. I remember when I was 13, 14 years old, it was the first time that my dad ever really let me go out, because 80s and 90s in Salford, being a brown guy, not always the safest. And I managed to persuade my dad that there is a conference, not a conference, it was like a trade show for speakers, you know, like hi-fis, car stereos, things of that nature. And the train station was outside my dad's shop, and the conference was outside the train station that I needed to get to, a train station called Deansgate in Manchester. So I explained to him that, look, when I leave the house, I'll be at the train station in 5 minutes. Once I'm on the train, when I get out the other side, it's a 5-minute walk. I'll be at this place. I really want to see all these new speakers. I want to see all these new hi-fis. So he lets me go, and they've got a double-decker bus inside the conference. And inside that double-decker bus, the whole double-decker bus is kitted out with speakers. So I'm having the time of my life. First time I learned about JBL and all this other stuff. So I got a little bit of money to go and get some lunch. And I went to the cafeteria there at the conference center, and I got some food. And I remember getting some food, and I pulled up with my tray with my items on the tray. And there was like the equivalent of like a catering lady, like dinner lady style person at the checkout. And I said, oh, just this, please. And she said, okay, whatever it is, 2, 3, 4 pounds. I said, thank you very much. And I don't know if that was grandfathered in from like my days as a shopkeeper. So I spoke to people the way I like to be spoken to by my customers. And she looked at me and she goes, you know what? You've got amazing manners. You're going to go really far one day. And I was like, thanks. And I was like, wait a second. That's just me speaking normally and the way I was taught to speak. And yet that really, really resonated with her. And what happened is it became a cheat code. It almost became like when you're on a school picture and you stand up you stand up like, how do you say that? When you stand up on your feet like this, what's it called? On your tiptoes.
Tiptoes, yeah.
It became my tiptoe trick. So when I spoke to everybody, I'm really, really nice. Now I was anyway. So it wasn't something that it wasn't a modification, but I made sure that I never let that go. And I made sure that I'm always really kind, always say please, always say thank you wherever possible. I'm human. I make mistakes as well. But like that really has become one of the things that has absolutely, to answer the brother's question or lady's question, like that's the top skill. You'll be surprised the ROI of manners. It will blow your freaking head off.
Totally. I guess that's just the initial step of building rapport, isn't it? You know, and having people get on with you, and that's the first step there. That was a question from Sam Drake, I think. So yeah, awesome question, Sam Drake. Sabrina says thanks for the tip. Let's have a quick look, see any other questions we've got.
There's a lot of questions here, yo.
I know.
Let's go all the way through them. Maybe we do shorter answers, but all of them.
No worries. What, in your opinion, of expanding your horizons in terms of sales channels? And one thing that has hit us all is the realization that we got too comfortable in our zones. Would you say that we should perfect what we're good at or start looking at other avenues of sales?
Both. Let me explain to you why. Because you have time. So both of them require you to upskill your knowledge. You're not going to build out other sales channels unless you take some time out to learn how to do so. You're not going to upskill unless you take some time out to learn how to do so. So by giving both of these different names and different definitions doesn't serve anybody, and it definitely doesn't serve you. So here's how you do it. When it comes to upskilling, I already answered Sabrina's question, so I hope that helps that person with regards to just start off by taking little tasters of everything and then do more of what seems to be resonating with you. With regards to sales channels, one of the things that's made me a ton of money in the past is understanding sales paradigms rather than channels. The channels sit underneath the paradigms. I'll give you some examples. Number one, if you're not selling online, is there any option anywhere in the world to sell what you do online? If anybody's doing it, you can do it too. And if they're doing it in another country, then that doesn't affect you. It's not competition, because your hyper local version of it, your Dubai version of it, is still going to resonate better than somebody else's. Number 2, partnerships. If you're used to selling hand to hand, one to one, start looking a little bit higher up in the value chain of the ecosystem of the community that you sell to. And rather than selling 1 by 1, 2 by 2, 3 by 3, what are the associations? What are the networks? Who are the committees? What are the clubs where you can sell in once and they can represent your product or your service to people en masse, to dozens and dozens or hundreds and hundreds of people? They would be the top 2 things I would look at doing. And actually 2.5, 3, I would say, would be bartering. Go out there right now, start talking to other businesses and be like, in monetary terms, what I offer is worth $6,000. Because for me, the cost is $3,000 and I sell it for $6,000. So there's a $3,000 invisible perceived value margin there. If I came to you right now, potential partner, what have you got that's costs you $3,000 that you sell for $6,000? Because now if we barter and we exchange, we're not exchanging the invisible value, we're just exchanging our cost. So that means both people win, because your cost will always be $3,000, but the retail value of what you get back is $6,000. And for the other person, their cost will be $3,000, but the list price value of what they get back will be $6,000. And once you do that 2 or 3 times, boy, that is addictive, because the ROI is wild. Wild.
Brilliant. Another question here. We've got, this looks like quite a good one, actually. Is it being creative or competitive right at this point in time?
I mean, who are you going to compete with? I'm creative and I only compete with myself. That's the one-line summary for me. Yeah, but I mean, but it's like when you say both, you're talking about 2 different skill sets, 2 different. I mean, competitiveness is a frame of mind, and creativity, depending on who you are, who you talk to, nature, nurture, a little from column A, a little from column B, who knows?
So like, how about reframing that question to, is it more important to create or consume at this moment in time?
Again, both.
About education and using this time to upskill.
Yeah.
But also using this time to get yourself out there and to create content, and you would say find a balance of both, right? So
let me describe the room I'm in right now. The room I'm in right now, in front of me is a 16-inch MacBook, and I'm talking to you. At 11 o'clock in my line of sight is a camera, and at 2 o'clock in my line of sight is my flat screen TV. I do not know how my camera works, because the young people in my business know my cameras better than I know them. So I look at the TV, I type in, how does this work? What's ISO? What's aperture? What's white balance? What's all of these things? I go over to the camera, so I'm consuming the knowledge, and I'm immediately implementing it into my creativity. These things are not mutually exclusive. And what the mainstream world tries to do when it comes to education and a lot of the BS entrepreneurial content that's out there, it tries to pigeonhole things and put them into categories. The reality is it's all a jigsaw. You don't do either or in all cases. I am waking up in the morning, and before my feet have touched the bed, before my feet have touched the ground outside my bed, I have a podcast on. And then when I come into the living room, before I even look at the table and what I want to eat, I'm already fiddling with the camera. They're intertwined. You don't need to do either or. Unlearn everything that people have taught you about, is it this or that? Is it A or A? Entrepreneurship and hustling is not multiple choice. It's freehand. It's much more of an essay than it is just a button pushing exercise. And it's an essay where you need as much Tipp-Ex as you need a pen. You need a pencil and you need an eraser on the other side, because as you write this essay, you also need to go back and self-correct and course adjust as you go along. Both. Yeah, totally. I can see that. It's almost, in my mind, it's a bit like, as long as you're directionally correct with everything you're doing, right? You're trying to bring a whole bunch of different things in the same kind of direction, rather than just trying to pick one thing and just doing that. You're herding goats. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And right now is not I don't think it's a particularly healthy time to hedge your bet and be like, well, I'm going to come out of this coronavirus by doing X. That's really dangerous. That's my biggest criticism of all these like entrepreneur coaches and all these other people, which are just like, here's how you do this in a pandemic. Here's how you double your sales in a pandemic. Here's how you grow your business during a pandemic. Yo, last time I checked, none of these hustlers were around during the Spanish flu. So unless you really, really have been there before, you're just giving me hypothetics. And guess where I've got infinite hypothetics? In my own head. I have no shortage of hypothetical outcomes of my business or the future of business or the future of the market. Plenty, infinite supply. So I don't need somebody else giving me their hypothetics. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, completely. We've got another question here. What's the most interesting experience you've had so far during this pandemic period? I can't see your name, so if you could type your name in the comments just so I can relate that to you, that'd be awesome. So what's the most interesting experience you've had so far during this pandemic period?
Yo, this is wild, yeah? Now that I'm back in learning mode and consuming content and I've gone from teacher to student again, I have been having back-to-back multiple epiphany orgies. I kid you not. I am like, I will listen to a podcast in the morning, read an article right after that, take some time out and sit on the balcony and think, have a conversation with you, talk to one of my homies in Nairobi, speak to somebody in America, and then watch a YouTube video with some conspiracy theory in. And the way that they all come together and fuse just causes this like climax burst moment where I'm like, yo, that's where the market's going. I got it. And I'm having them on a daily basis. I'm like,
why are you having them on a daily basis? What's causing that? Is that the environment we're in, or is that the fact that you've now got time to do these, to look at these things, research things?
Like many people, I want to know, or I want to have a solid guess as to where the world is going. So I feel not anxiety, maybe curiosity as to what's next. So I'm always like, how does this play out? Okay, this policy has just changed. How does that play out? Trump has now stopped all immigration. Okay, cool. How does that play out? How many computer scientists and engineers in Bangalore that were 3 months away from getting their green card and moving to the United States are now going to stay in Bangalore? And guess what? Bangalore's a lot closer to Dubai than it is to Silicon Valley. What's in it for me? So now let me start looking at interviews and podcasts where people are talking about the supply demand curve when it comes to talent. Multiply that by the fact that there's remote working. Multiply that by the fact that silicon might now start being produced in India or Brazil instead of China because the Chinese trade war led to a 7% import tariff. And now we're beefing about where did the virus come from. Like, you factor all these things in, your head's like bang, bang, burst, whoa, 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 whoa. And that is probably the most incredible thing about this pandemic is, one, the curiosity to move forward and research and look for answers on these questions, multiplied by the fact that I've got the time to go down the rabbit hole and investigate these things, which normally would mess up my short-term money because I've got clients emailing me and people just doing my head in saying, I need this, I need that. What about this? Can you check this? Can you check that? What hashtag should I be using? Is this copyright? Can you re-edit this? Now that has just stopped. And so to answer the question specifically, the pandemic has allowed me to do that. And the outcome is just these constant hits every day. My poor cousin Vikash, who I've worked with him for maybe 15 years on the music business as well, is getting phone calls from me all the time. And I am going Kanye West on the phone every time I call him, bro. Every time. What I mean, actually, let's take him out of the equation. We don't know each other that well, right? We've hung out, we've had a few drinks. I respect you. I know what you do. But like, what have I been like since the first time you ever met me?
In which way?
In that energy wise.
From the first time I met you, super interesting guy, always wanting to connect, very easygoing, great manners.
now behind that, put an additional engine. And that engine is just phenomenal rest. And then stick another engine on the back of that yacht as well, which is just like hyper creativity and relaxation.
Nice.
Like I'm a supernova right now, bro.
Like a twin engine. Don't know.
Crazy. just crazy.
Twin engine machine.
I'm in a good place, fam. I'm in a real good place.
Oh, man, it's good to hear.
Really good place.
Amazing, man. Listen, mate, that was an absolutely amazing interview. I think we're going over an hour now, so I'm just going to to wrap this up gradually, what is your message to business owners in Dubai? If you could just say 3 things to sum this up, your message to business owners in Dubai.
3 messages. Okay. Number 1, one person, not one individual person, has the whole answer. But as a whole, collectively as entrepreneurs, we have the answer. So please do things right now to connect, to build communities, to design committees and advisory boards and people that you trust. Put them on WhatsApp groups, set up a Slack channel, make sure that you are both giving what you know as you pick it up and receiving what other good people are prepared to teach you, because there is a multiplier effect there. You will end up in a situation where 1 + 1 + 1 = 5. That would be tip number 1. Tip number 2, adjust your time frame. And if you're like me and your time frame is naturally skewed to a 5-year window, I have to eat my own advice there as well. And I have to force myself to reduce my 5-year window down to a 2-year one. What you can't do is get so comfortable at looking at the 5-year game that you forget the 2-year game. You need to look at both. So if your natural default is short-termism, unstitch slightly, go wider, start thinking medium and long. And if your natural viewpoint is long or medium, bring it down a little bit, start looking at short-term. When we are all allowed to start walking around outside, whether it's for a couple of hours a day or just for a jog or whatever, I'm going to go to every population-dense metropolitan area in Dubai, whether it's JBR or any of the other neighborhoods, Karama, the downtown area, Business Bay, DIFC. This is my backyard. And I'm just going to walk and just take the energy in. Combine my exercise with how many shops are open, how many are closed, how many are boarded up, what are people wearing, are there any tourists here, which ones are stuck here, where are they eating, what are they doing. We know what the vibe is. We see it every single day. So it's very, very easy to notice the differences. And then number 3, should have been number 1 to me, which is we're all now at the very top of like Maslow's pyramid. Like be present, take care of your loved ones, whoever you care about. Your family might be a bunch of assholes and you might not want to talk to them. Cool. But there's somebody who you can extend a bit of compassion to. There are a lot of people going through it right now. Like I'm super privileged. I'm sat here surrounded by 100,000 dirhams worth of high-tech equipment. I'm chilling. Yeah, I'll sleep better at night knowing that I've checked in with somebody today who may or may not have the same things as me, but might just appreciate the company. I can talk to nobody for 48 hours, 72 hours, not speak a word, not use my own voice, and I'm cool. I'm my own biggest fan. I've got a built-in studio audience inside my head at all times clapping for me, telling me I'm the best. But that's not the case for everybody. So there's always going to be somebody who's got less. Just try and reach out, hit them with that compassion. What was that word we came up with? Compassionalism?
Yeah, compassionalism. Yeah, love it.
Own that.
Amazing. Really, really appreciate this, Raj. Brilliant interview, mate. I think our guys watching this on the YouTube and also on the Facebook group got tons of value. So really, really appreciate it, mate. Where can our followers here get a hold of you? Where can they follow you and learn more?
Tip number 1 is that my DM on Instagram, which is at Raj Kotecha, RAJKOTECHA. You'll see it because the team would have tagged me on this video stream. My DM, my inbox on DM is the same as hitting me on WhatsApp or SMS. That's the number 1 best place to get me, because at any one time, there'll be 5, 6, 7 messages that need to be responded to. I take time out every single day. It's addictive to me. It's like a video game. I always hit everybody back. And then another thing to do, if you really want to connect, is inside the DM, send me a 1-minute voice note. It helps me so much when I can hear your voice, the texture, the tone, the cadence. I can really understand what your priorities are, and I can answer in a much more meaningful way, and I'll send you a voice note back. However, caveat, that doesn't mean send me 15 voice notes, which is what everybody tends to do, unless I say it. Send me one 1-minute voice note. Let me know who you are, where your head's at, and then we'll just kick it off from there. That doesn't mean that we can't do 15 back and forth, but just hit me like this, you know, let's ease me in a little bit. And if you message me on there, then I'll message you back. Most people are shocked by the fact that I do message everybody back. I take great pride in it. And if I can help anybody, I will. And I just wish everybody and their family and their loved ones the best of health. And over the next 24 months, 36 months, we will turn a corner. And I hope that we can all, you know, come out the other side and celebrate and enjoy life together.
Amazing. Guys, that was Raj. Amazing interview. Thank you so much, buddy. You know where to get him. It's Instagram. Send him a 1-minute voice message and we'll make sure you guys have his Instagram in the comments of this YouTube and Facebook group as well. Cheers for coming on, buddy.
All right. Peace.